When you're ready.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dennis Chachko, and I'm here to talk to you guys about a particular topic that I'm sure a lot of you guys are going through or have already gone through, whether you should continue paying that rent check every month or go out there and maybe start buying a home. So let me just start off by asking, does anybody here own a home? Own their own home? So everybody else here rents, is that correct? All right, so I'm not here to, just let me preface this, I'm not here to tell you renting is bad, because you asked me 5 years ago, you know, I was in that position, I had to, I was forced to, I didn't have any other choice but to rent. What I'm here to talk to you guys about is a decision that could come with you either, you know, this year particularly, or, you know, in the future, the near future, that you might want to take this step just by the information I'm going to give you today. When I was, you know, buying my first home a couple years ago, my realtor friend, her name is Janet Piggott, she works at Wycurve Realtors, she confronted me about it, and she said, buying a home, renting an apartment is like paying your hard-earned, you know, money to somebody to pay off their mortgage, probably to pay off their mortgage at the house that they're living in too, and all the while they're not even giving you, you know, a thank you note back. It's just, here's my thank you for my money. They don't ever give you a thank you. They don't give you a gift basket. You don't ever get a gift back. So for the guys that are here and are currently renting, I'm sure you guys have been in this position before, where, you know, just sick and tired of people next to you just screaming, partying, or whatever. You're trying, you know, you have a presentation the next day, and you're like, I can't go to sleep. I'm gonna be stressed out tomorrow. And you've even considered possibly even writing a complaint to them, or even to the apartment association. So that's the preface I wanted to kind of get across is, this is the 800-pound elephant in the room. There's tons of financial decisions that you can make. And you can invest your money instead of putting it into a house. But really, do you really want to be living next to somebody, and you want to, or would you rather build some equity, you know, and build for your financial future? So I'm going to start off just by the 3 things to consider when you're buying a home: the current housing market, and then the affordability of it. Danielle last week talked to you guys a little bit about the process of buying a home. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth about that after we talk about the 3 things to consider, but use the information that she gave you as well as the information that I gave you today. You guys can partner that together and go out and buy one. So the 3 things that you must consider when you're buying a home. There's 3 very important things. Do you have good credit? That's easily the most important thing. You have to have good credit to get a good interest rate, or to even be qualified to buy or to afford a mortgage. The second thing is, are you willing to live in the current place for 7 years? Zillow, everybody's probably heard of them. They estimated that the current homeowner lives in that house for 7 years, average of 7 years. So if you're willing to live there for 7 years, then just roughly say that's a good starting point. And then, do you have enough money for a down payment? That's one of the hardest things to do, is come up with that, you know, enough money for a 20% down payment, or even if you're going to apply for an FHA mortgage, even 3.5%. So, you know, it does. That's another big part of it. And you have to be willing to go to that step and invest your money into in a home instead of put it in the bank account. But I'll explain to you guys why I think it is very important. And Forbes says if you are able to meet all these 3 requirements, buying a home can be 45% cheaper than renting in those 7 years. So in these 7 years, 45% cheaper. So just think about that. The current state of the housing market hasn't been any better than it has you know, for the last 4 years. This is home prices have gone up 3.8%. You're thinking, well, it's 3%. You know, what is that? Well, if you think about it, $100,000 home, that's $3,800. Next year, if you think it's going to double this year, another 3.8%, that's $7,000. You just gained in equity in just 2 years of owning a home. Mortgage rates have fallen again in 1% just the last year. So again, you have great housing market, affordability in the mortgage rates, and then so these are just 2 links that I was going to show you guys. I'll show you at the end actually, where it puts buying a home or renting. So you enter, it's pretty much just like a spreadsheet. Rent, you put in all your information, then you put in all the information that you would to buy a home. This is the rule of 15 when I was buying a home. So it's essentially saying if you can afford to buy a home in your current area for 15 times your annual yearly rental cost. So if you, let's just say, spent $1,500 a month, that's $18,000 a year you spent on just rent. You take that, multiply that by 15, your starting goal, or excuse me, your ending goal should be $270,000 that you can basically look for and you can afford in a mortgage. And this is also the rental calculator. That's where I calculated that from. It's just that works too. All right. Go back to that. So that's this is the calculator I was just telling you about. And it's blocked. So that was just the calculator that I basically got all these numbers from. The final thing I want to talk about is the affordability side. So this is a graph I'll just show you real fast. From 1972 all the way up until 2011, you have the green is the mortgage payments. The blue is the gross rent. So from 1972 till 2008, when the housing market crashed, mortgage costs were actually higher than the gross rent. So it actually made sense to rent. Now, if you look at where we are now, you have way below the actual rental costs. So you can just see, just from this graph, and affordability forces like buying homes. It allows you to see the difference between buying a home and then renting. You have a huge gap here. First time it's ever happened since 1972. You can just see the market is really good. In 2008, owning a home dipped below renting. This is also the U.S. interest rates. You can see a little bit of similarity between the two, how in 1981, just right around 1972, it started dipping. That's a huge, some people say it's very similar. The interest rates are reflective based on how the economy is. So, as you can see, the interest rates have never been lower. We're around 3.5%, almost 4%. In the history of the United States, the average interest rate is 5.18%, and the current interest rate right now is 4.1. So you're actually already below 200 plus years of United States interest rate. We haven't seen those numbers before. I remember my dad was telling me that when he was buying a home in 1981, he's like, everybody was saying interest rates are never going to get into single digits again. We're going to be screwed. And then look at what happens now. It's even way below that. He was rolling his grave right now. So ultimately, in the end, buying a home, most importantly, builds equity. You're building for the future. You're building a line of credit for yourself. Just a ton of pluses for that. You also get tax deductions. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that. There's also a first homeowners, when you're filling out your taxes, you get a first homeowners check. And then last year you lived in New Jersey, so I'll show you real fast just the pluses about living in New Jersey and buying a home in New Jersey. This works. Well, anyways.
That's weird.
I was here to show you the just difference between the United States and there's a similarity, a graph between the similarity between the United States and where New Jersey's at. New Jersey's actually double where it's at compared to the United States average right now, buying a home and affordability of buying a home. So you're in a crazy good market for New Jersey itself. So in conclusion, I hope those that are currently renting just have enough confidence now to step beyond their boundary and choose the idea of possibly even going out and looking for a home and putting that money, investing it in the future. You have a solid job, you have good credit, and you're able to be stable where you're at right now. It doesn't make more sense but to buy a home instead of renting. Thanks, guys.